Alright, what is going on, guys? My name is Leo Master. Welcome back to another Overwatch League news video. And today, guys, we have a lot to go over with Jerry being signed back into the Overwatch League, a team no one expected him to go to. We got some leaks finally with Chengdu Hunters, more things coming out with them with Halo of Thoughts. Also, we got some releases and retires, unfortunately, at the end of the video. And like I always do, talk about stuff that has not been official, that has been leaked at the end of the video. Obviously, we're going to talk about Chengdu to the LA Gladiators once again. To start it off, we're going to talk about the most surprising thing almost everyone probably woke up to, just like myself. Washington Justice has signed Jerry to their team, which is very shocking to see because out of all the teams I would not expect Jerry to go to, but at the same time, I kind of expect it at the same time. You know, what's going to happen with Stitch is the question now with Jerry, Stitch. They have Decay. Decay is going to be the main starter when it comes to hit scans. You have Jerry coming in, who is a hit scan, who can flex to some roles. And in general, I think Jerry being signed is a somewhat good sign, especially if it comes to metas like we did in playoffs. You know, with Decay being on the Zarya, who's going to be their hit scan next time, because Stitch, you know, he performed well in playoffs, but I think Jerry could potentially perform a little bit better, especially on that team. You know, him on Boston Uprising is very hard for him to perform really good at, but I think everyone knows Jerry has that potential. He just needs to be in the right team for it to show off. But like I said earlier, what does this mean with Stitch? We do know based off the contract status, his option did get declined. Nothing's been really said about him just yet. No Justice has been saying about releases, or Stitch hasn't seen an LFT. If I remember correctly, I haven't seen an LFT from Stitch. So does this mean he's been fully released right now? Or are they trying to find a team for Stitch to go to? Maybe a trade somewhere? There's always options for Stitch for that, or Washington Justice, I should say, for that. I think this one's a very strange signing. I think this one will work out, though, depending on what meta happens or how everything just goes out in general. He's definitely going to be a backup, probably, you know, just in case kind of thing, if Decay kind of gets toxic on Justice. Who knows? If Decay has any issues, Washington Justice has Jerry the backup, and maybe Jerry will be really good this season, not as Decay level, but he'll be good enough, kind of like Onigod on the Dallas Fuel. You have Onigod who's not as good as Decay, but he's a backup, and he came in and he did his things on Dallas Fuel. Jerry may be to do the same thing on Washington Justice, just in case if Decay does anything. But I highly doubt Decay is going to get any issues on the Justice, you know, depending on how the team's kind of building around him. Staff is really asking him questions, being around him a lot, it feels like. But I don't know. I'm not there. I've seen some people talk about it. So Jerry going to Washington Justice, we didn't really expect this one. If we were going off the rumors, we really were just waiting to see if he was going to join the NYXL. Wasn't the case. He joins the Justice. I'm excited to see how this turns out. I think this one's going to be a fun sign to watch in the future. A lot of conversations are going to be made. Still crazy to see, but apparently there's like one or two more signings Justice has made according to Halo of Thoughts, I think. But we'll need to see where that goes later on. But to end it off, very excited to see how this turns out. It's going to be a wild season next season, especially if Jerry being on the Justice. Now let's talk about the Chengdu Hunters leaks, and may I say, I'm excited to see if these are going to be real. I hope they are real because they make sense in general, especially the first one I'm going to talk about. If you have not seen, Halo of Thoughts has leaked Gaga in 1987 are going to Chengdu Hunters. I'm really excited to see how this turns out. You have Gaga, who's been a great main tank in Chinese contenders almost all the time, it feels like. Especially recently, he's been really good. Definitely going to be way better than Ameng, it feels like at this point. He's definitely going to be a massive upgrade. It's going to help the Chengdu Hunters. You have 1987, who's really good as well, but Molly could be better. You know, 1987 could be better. Honestly, it all depends on who performs in scrims, you know, coaching-wise, if 1987 is better in a certain meta. Same thing goes for Molly, because Molly's been great as well. Nothing's been said about Molly. Most likely be getting kept, though, if I remember correctly from the contract status. So it's going to be exciting to see who battles out for that starting spot on Chengdu Hunters, 1987 or Molly. And, you know, it all depends. Maybe there's some synergy with Gaga in 1987. Some people want to see the off tank on Team CC now and join the Chengdu Hunters. There's a lot of signings I want to see Chengdu Hunters make, because I definitely think they can make so many signings to be a top team, like signing Dia, and maybe he can start over Leave at some points and he'll just be better in general. We have Gaga now coming in, potentially, you know, keep this as a rumor, but Halo Thought's been like kind of right 90% of the time. So Gaga coming in, going to be a massive upgrade for this team. And 1987, definitely going to be an upgrade in certain positions for sure in the Chengdu Hunters, but it all depends on who really performs in the scrims. Molly or 1987. I'm excited to see how this turns out. Nothing much to really say just yet about these guys. We haven't seen him in the Overwatch League, kind of like Jerry when it came to him on the Boston Uprising, now going on the Justice. These guys have been in contenders, way different from the Overwatch League, but yes, I do gotta say they have won a lot in Chinese contenders, both Gaga 1987 and also just Team CC in general when it comes to Dia and all those players on that team. So very excited to see how this turns out. Going to be a great season for the Chengdu Hunters, hopefully, especially if the previous signings of Jimmy and Kanakai are going to be in as well, because those guys have been good as well. Obviously, that kind of gets rid of the whole Dia thing, but there's still a chance for Dia to be on the Chengdu. Who knows? But Those are all the leaks we have at Chengdu Hunters just yet. We have Jimmy, Kanakai, thank you guys for telling me how to say the name by the way, and Gaga in 1987. A lot of good upgrades across the roster right now. Now to go over some releases for the Guangzhou Charge, they have released players that were expected at this point. We have Nero, Shu, and Happy all being released from the Guangzhou Charge. These were expected at this point, especially that Shu was leaked to go to the LA Gladiators, which did become true. We're going to talk about that at the end of the video. You have Nero, who said a lot of things at the end of the season that this was his last time with the boys, last time with the team. He wants to go to a different team. I've talked about this a lot in the past when Nero said these kind of tweets. We'll go over the teams again, but it's kind of like the same thing. And you also have Happy being released, and I don't remember if his contract status said option declined or not, but Happy being released kind of is a shocker to me still, but not really. He was a great hit scan for this team all around. Had some flexibility issues, but all around when he played his roles like Tracer, Widow, all of those, he did phenomenally well on the Guangzhou Charge, and hopefully he brings that to another team he'll go to. And I do think there is one team that he could go to out of all the teams I read over. Maybe there will be more like the Atlanta Reign if they want to have Happy instead of at Edison, but the team I really wrote down for Happy is going to be the Dallas Spiel, and I think this one makes sense. He was on Element Mystic for like, what, 2 or 3 months, even though that doesn't really make a lot of things, but, you know, if we're all going to Element Mystic for the Dallas Fuel, hey, you know, I guess that somewhat makes sense. You have Happy going to Dallas Fuel. Also, they don't have a hit scan player, but you can bring up a lot of conversations for Dallas Fuel to have a hit scan player. You have DM, Happy, and many more that could go on the Dallas Fuel, but Happy, previously on the Element Mystic, not for long, but he was on it, and he goes to the Dallas Fuel. They need a hit scan. I think this one makes sense. And Nero, I wrote down some teams for him: LA Valiant, Toronto, Houston, the normal kind of teams I've said for Nero in almost every video when I talk about them. I did mention Vancouver Titans before, but if the leak is true, Agility's going to Vancouver Titans, I don't see the point of saying Nero anymore. I think LA Valiant makes sense. KSF, not been the greatest flex DPS last season. I think Nero could be way better. Same thing goes in Toronto. They don't have one right now. In Houston, I think Houston would be a great fit for Nero. Him beside Dante, maybe even Hydration at some points. I think Nero could bring a lot of top play to this team. It just all depends on how things work out. I'd love to see Nero on the Houston Outlaws out of all the teams I wrote down, but maybe they'll pull a shocker. Maybe LA Gladiators. I thought about putting LA Gladiators down, but wouldn't it make sense that they talked about them today with Shu? I don't know. Maybe there's still stuff going on, talks going on, but still, either way, Nero has a lot of options to go to. Maybe it'll be a surprise one, like the Philadelphia Fusion. You know, I said that about Mano. Philadelphia Fusion, I didn't believe that one, and it ended up happening. He'll be on the Philadelphia Fusion. Nero, who knows where he'll go. I don't think there'll be many teams that would want Nero right now, honestly. Now on to the retirements. We're going to talk about one real quick. It is Karkar. He said, long overdue, but I am retiring. The game hasn't been fun, especially these past couple of months. And I think it really sucks to see Karkar go, because I had a lot of high hopes for him coming into the season. You know, after him performing really well in Fusion University and Atlanta Academy, coming into the Vancouver Titans, I had a lot of high hopes for him. But there was probably a lot of other things behind the scenes that was really bad for the Vancouver Titans, most likely, especially how some of the previous Vancouver Titans talked about him. It was rough to see this happen. He said Overwatch League wasn't what he expected it to be, and honestly, this may be an opinion thing, but it was honestly because he was probably on the Vancouver Titans. You know, he probably didn't have the best experience on that team. He wasn't really put in the best position. He was kind of like last minute here, go play on the Vancouver Titans, it kind of felt like, but I don't know, I wasn't there. But probably because he was on the Vancouver Titans, didn't have the best experience, and in general, he's going to retire now. It sucks to see. He had a lot of potential, though, I felt like, but it didn't come through this season, and like I said, it was probably because of Vancouver Titans. Now on to another retirement we got. It is Roki from Toronto Defiant, obviously, and he did retire as well, but he also said he wants to become a coach now, and I definitely think him being a coach would be a great fit. He did say he wanted to retire. He had a pretty decently long post in there, and he thanked all of his coaches that, you know, coached him up to where he is now, like Krusty, Mask, all of the coaches he had, and Roki now retiring. It sucks to see. He was always a positive kind of guy. He had his moments in Season 2. Season 3 was really rough for Toronto in general. It sucks to see him retire, but I definitely think he'll be a good coach, though. Something tells me he's going to be a good coach. Maybe like Aid, you know, Aid retired and he went to coaching, and he's one of the best, like, support coaches, it feels like, after what we've heard from behind the scenes. Maybe Roki could do the same thing, be a support coach for a team, maybe go back on the Toronto Defiant and be an assistant coach, who knows. But Roki definitely has a future for that, I feel like. Now to end it off with a leak that has now been official. Not going to go over it too much, but it is LA Gladiators now signing Shu to the roster. We expected this from the leak previously. It made some sense after everything we've seen. Shu coming to LA Gladiators, going to be a fun one to see. And now if Halo got this right, does this mean Moth is also going to join the LA Gladiators? It's going to be fun to see if that turns out. Shu has been all around a great flex support player. 2 seasons in a row now for the Guangzhou Charge. One of the best players on the Guangzhou Charge last season as well. Very excited to see how this turns out for the LA Gladiators. They're definitely upgrading their roster a lot this season. Hopefully they do some stuff with their DPS, but if not, I think they'll be fine in general. You have Moth, Shu, Muse, Space, Birdring, Kevster. Sounds like a pretty solid team that'll get you far in the playoffs. I don't know if it'll win you the Overwatch League, but it will definitely get you far. And maybe if there's a certain meta, you will win the Overwatch League, but who knows? Definitely a lot of good signings from the LA Gladiators though right now. Anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys want to stay more in tune with Overwatch League news and Overwatch League stuff in general, don't forget to subscribe down below, and also don't forget to join my Discord down below as well, and don't forget to follow my Twitter and my Twitch, and don't forget to hit that bell, and don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one.